Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I'm constantly taught how to teach the real history of history, except that history, as we've been told, is all wrong, but there's a real history. We'll learn about it today, maybe. Have I said that I don't plan these things out before they say them? And I come to you live from Crater Valley, with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Teachable Moment Thursday. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks for education and enlightenment. And tonight's episode promises to do both. That's all, folks. Not quite yet, but soon. Anyway, before I get into tonight's long title, that's what she said. Who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? Advocatus Diaboli. Good evening. Mike R. Good evening. Noah Alexander. Essentially. Oh, Alex. I did not know your middle name till tonight. I was reflexively about to just say Noah Asensio, but now there's an Alexander in the middle. It's much better than Malcolm in the middle. Well, Noah Alexander. Good evening. Keeverdam. Good evening to you, and thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the fundraiser links for our friends AJ, Ron Harushan, Natalie, and Angela Arriaga. If you guys can take a look at those when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That as well will be appreciated. So thank you for that. And Keeverdam, thank you as always for providing those. As always, Rotten Corpse, good evening. Funtime Bats, good evening. Shell D, good evening. And Derek LaRue, holy cats, Derek LaRue, thank you as always for your continued generosity and support. That's always very, very nice of you. Very, very much appreciated. Hope you're having a good evening and hope you enjoy the show. Tier Alexander, good evening. Let's see who else is here. Robert Pincus, good evening. Josh Hammond, good evening to you. Ryan R, good evening. The Best Remy, good evening. Angelverse, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? Pissed Off Shih Tzu, good evening. John Trioxin, hello. Full Metal Joker, hello. Mr. X51, hello, hello. And thank you, Mr. X. I've noticed your very persistent sharing and retweeting of my stuffs on the Twitters, or the X, as it may be otherwise known. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Non-Vitae Rex, good evening. Dina B. Okay, Dina B. See, I felt really bad because after the last stream I did, you wanted the link to the Discord server. And I forgot to give out a link to the Discord server. And I was told after the fact, Dina B was looking for it. I was like, I felt bad. So Dina B, just for you, link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. I'll give it out early. In this case, anybody else who sees this, all you have to do is say, hello, Dina B. And if you are Dina B, that's fine, but you'll also be saying hello to Dina B. So Dina B, there you go. I'll give the link out again at the end of the show. But just wanted to make sure you got that on the off chance that I missed you again. I didn't want to do that. I felt bad. So I hope I've repaired that. Jamie Melquist, good evening. Cryptic, good evening to you. You're Ridiculous Lunatic, good evening. Shadowclaw, Ow. Kiro Soldier, good evening. Who else is here? Anybody else? Rib Rascal, good evening to you. And Ercole De Stefano, whose name I am always happy to pronounce and correct for other shows that he shows up on in the chat, as was happened yesterday on Pop Culture Minefield. Over on Pop Culture Minefield yesterday, they looked at the 1999 film from Mel Gibson, Payback, a film I particularly like, and I had the opportunity to go nerd out about Payback yesterday. So if you're familiar with that film or just want to hear a bunch of nerds talk about it, that's over on Pop Culture Minefield and the matinee, midday matinee, I think it's called. Either way. Anybody else I missed before I move on? I don't think so. But if I did miss you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good evening. All right, so tonight, this was a difficult selection this week. I had kind of a sparse crop of things to choose from. Even though TEDx dropped a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of it was either in foreign languages, or it was some TEDx youth stuff, or it was all sort of like, oh, what AI can do for you. Like, lots of AI stuff. Like, you know, if there's three terms that show up on more TEDx talks now than I think I've ever seen before, it's passion, purpose, and AI. if you go onto the TEDx YouTube page and go into the little magnifying glass thing, and you just search the words passion and or purpose and or AI, you probably cannot count how many different presentations show up with those words embedded somewhere in the title. But this one has a lot of words, and this is what got my attention. Because I don't know what it's about. I did not read the description, but I have some theories. So let me share them with you. Tonight's title is Historical Erasure, When Curriculum Acts as the Gatekeeper of Existence. Historical erasure when curriculum acts as the gatekeeper of existence. Okay, so here's my theory. I'm going to give you my psychic assessment. But before I do that, Big Dave 1066, good evening. Keldrig, good evening. And did I miss anybody else? I don't think so. Okay, so good. All right, so I'm going to guess. This is a long presentation. This is over 20 minutes long, so I'm going to try to make this brief. I'm going to guess this is going to be something about either CRT, critical race theory, or the opposition of critical race theory, and under the idea that critical race theory is simply there to tell the true history of slavery in this country or oppression or something like that. That's my guess. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected, but I have a feeling, just based on the title and the terms used therein, that that's going to be it. That schools are either holding back the true history of racism and or slavery in this country. The 1619 Project may come up. I'm making my psychic predictions now. So CRT, 1619. Those are the two sort of elements. Maybe they'll show up. I'm just using my psychic powers. Tonight's bingo card is bingo card A. A as in the Library at Alexandria, which was the winner of the poll on Twitter. If you'd like to take part in the poll each week to choose the bingo card for the night show, just follow me there on Twitter or X, scribe_light. All right, with all that being said, let's get going with this puppy. Like I say, it's over 20 minutes long. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
What if?
What if? Well, my favorite what if is what if Dr. Doom became Sorcerer Supreme? But I don't know. Everybody has their own favorites, I suppose. Everybody hear that okay? Let me know in the chat. And, oh, look who else is here. Payar D. Bayar. Good evening to you. Sounds good, says Mike R. All right. Well, if Mike R. says it was good, then we're fine to go. All right.
Somebody told you that you don't exist.
I mean, I have been turned down by women before or outright ignored. So it's not really a what if. It's kind of mainline 616 for me.
Then you later found out that you were, in fact, written into being.
Oh, is this like Stranger Than Fiction? Am I just a character in someone's story?
In my junior year of high school, in my AP American Lit class, we were reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I thought she said inventors of Huckleberry Finn. I'm assuming it's adventures. All right. Is this going to be talking about Jim? When a white classmate, a peer friend of mine, wondered aloud how they would personally feel if someone called them the N-word.
What they would feel like. Okay.
Fair. My teacher stopped the class, looked at me, and gestured for me to speak.
I'm sure she did. All right. On that note, let's go over to the bingo card real quick and just remind ourselves what we're listening for, which might be something we just heard. We'll decide. So remember, this is bingo card A. Links are in the description. Collectivize his own demographic. Not yet, but we might get there. Systemic or institutional. I'd be surprised if not. Sales pitch for product or service. We'll see. Childhood or family anecdote. I guess high school class technically counts as a childhood anecdote. It's close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades, so circle in that one. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, not yet. Plays victim. I think we might almost be there. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. I think we might almost be there. Privilege. We'll see. Contradicts own point or argument. Patriarchy. Deceptive statistics. We still haven't actually hit upon that one yet. That's the latest, newest square, or most recently revised square. Economic disparity. We'll see. Feminism. Marginalized or marginalization. Again, perhaps we'll get there quickly. A list. Remember, that's to be some kind of formal list within the presentation. White supremacy. Possibly so. Word salad. Self-vilification or wretchedness. That's always a tough one. Weightless example or non sequitur. Attempt to coin a new buzzword or buzz phrase. Mind reading or assumes motives. Benevolent condescension. Anecdote that probably never happened. Now, see, I'll explain why I think I'm not circling that quite yet. And lastly, leaves out vital context. So far on the board, we have childhood or family anecdote, and I'll circle as well free space because free is a good price. In this day and age, I could believe that the teacher would look to her first. I don't think it's necessarily an anecdote that could never have happened. So let's hear her out and see if any other details make us doubt. Ooh, I made that rhyme.
And gestured for me to speak. Someone actually spoke up for me on my behalf.
Oh, so an ally came to the rescue?
I said, "Oh no, Sarah's not Sarah's not black. She's West Indian."
Okay. I didn't really care or know. Okay.
I'm not black. That's news to me.
Okay. I'm having visions of a particular political candidate right now, actually.
I froze. All eyes were on me. I obviously didn't answer the question.
What question was... Oh, the question that your white peer asked that your teacher then relayed to you. Okay.
How was I expected to educate a classroom of my peers, of my white peers, on the complexity and the history of the Caribbean islands, the former British colonies?
You were asked about the Caribbean islands and the former British colonies? Wait a second. Okay. I must have missed something. So the white student wondered aloud while reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn what it might have been like if someone had called him the N-word. Your teacher gestures to you, and now you're struggling over how you're going to explain Caribbean culture to your class. What? Okay.
In the Caribbean.
Sorry, let me back up because I apparently cut her off.
The complexity and the history of the Caribbean islands, the former British colonies in the Caribbean.
The former British... Were you... Okay, so do you come from the Caribbean? The former British colonies. How long ago was the Caribbean British colonies? What?
All by myself at age 15. I remember another classmate of mine.
Whoa, wait. No. Okay. All right. No, that's just... Okay. Anecdote that probably never happened. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn don't take place in the Caribbean or the West Indies. Nothing that you've relayed so far about what the other students said had anything to do with the history of the Caribbean in the former British colonies. So, also, I'm circling plays victim. I don't know what else to say.
A white classmate came up
because race is really important here.
To me later and said, "Sarah, nobody actually cares that you're West Indian. You are just black."
Okay, so she recognized what you were depressed somebody dismissed.
Also, news to me.
Okay, so if someone calls you West Indian, you're sad. If someone says you're black, you're sad. What would make you happy?
See, growing up, I wasn't white.
Okay.
I wasn't African American either.
Okay.
My parents were born in a country that my social studies classes chose not to identify on a map.
What country was that? The Caribbean?
Whose, real estate on inside a textbook took up a small corner titled The Barbados Slave Codes.
The Barbados Slave Codes? Okay, I'm not intentionally trying to not understand. What?
Inside a textbook took up a small corner titled The Barbados Slave Codes.
The Barbados Slave Codes. I don't know what that is.
When my identity did exist.
When your identity did exist. What?
To my peers, it was the identity of somebody who was born to cut sugarcane.
What? Okay. Mind reading assumes motives. Wow. Okay. If you say so, I have to say, maybe it's just the lack of my worldliness or something, but when I hear Caribbean or Barbados, I'm going to say, I don't automatically think of people harvesting sugarcane. In fact, I'm not quite sure what I do imagine first, except like tropical islands or something.
Someone whose people didn't exist, were frozen in time.
What?
In the year 1555.
Oh, yeah, I know. When I think of the Caribbean, I think of the people there being frozen in time in 1550. What? Okay. So I'm going to read what's on the card. For those of you listening while you're driving or otherwise, she's got a card up or a slide. She may read it herself, but just on the off chance that she does not, it says 1555, first use of the term West Indian in the English language. Okay, I did not know that. Quote, the West Indians, which are all together, and mind you, together is spelled Togyyther. So we're talking very archaic writing here from 1555, because as you know, in the last 445 years or whatever, nothing has changed. Nothing about our understanding of the world or anything has changed. Just so as you all know, everything's been frozen in time since 1555. The West Indians, which are all together in general either purple or tawny like unto I don't know how to pronounce those words. Sodde, Saudi Kinsees? Or of the color of chestnuts or oils, unquote. Yeah, I'm an English major, not an old English major.
Didn't exist outside of the transatlantic slave trade.
Uh-huh.
My name is indeed Sarah Ishmael.
Well, you're just one word extra from the beginning of Moby Dick.
And I am a doctoral candidate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
The University of Wisconsin-Madison? Well, golly, I've done a couple of streams on the University of Wisconsin-Madison and their interesting policies on things. You can look those up on my channel. But, okay. Sorry, you're a doctoral, what are you studying again? Sorry, let me back up.
The slave trade.
Uh-huh.
My name is indeed Sarah Ishmael.
Uh-huh.
And I am a doctoral candidate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And my research, actually, I use Afro-Caribbean philosophical frameworks.
I am not surprised.
To investigate different conceptualizations of the human that get embedded in curriculum.
Okay, word salad. Circling that one. That was that was a list of words.
And then what the effects are, the material effects on students, teachers, and society.
The material effects on students, teachers, and society. I would love to know what your findings are. What are the material effects on students, teachers, and society?
The material effects on students, teachers, and society in general.
Yeah.
And you may not have heard of my field of study, which is fine. Not a lot of people have, actually.
But you may have heard of critical race theory.
But it is important.
Well, I mean, if you say so, I guess it must be. When I want someone to know that something that I think is important, I just say it's important, and obviously, well, it is. You know.
And hopefully, by the end of this talk,
I mean, and I would assume you as well would have to think it's important because you've spent. Again, if you're a doctoral candidate for something, you've spent a significant portion of your scholastic life dedicated to this thing. So if it's not important, you've been wasting your time and presumably a sizable chunk of money. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like a sort of necessary self-fulfilling declaration.
You will agree with me that it is important too.
Oh, okay, guys. Well, she's got 17 minutes to convince me that everything she's dedicated her academic life to, up to and through her doctoral candidacy, is important. All right. Well, so here's the challenge of this presentation. Are you guys ready? I know I am.
See, the reason that I do this work is honestly, we don't really take a moment to think about the work that curriculum actually does.
The work that curriculum actually does. Well, and I am just a layman here. A curriculum is sort of a glorified term for a lesson plan. Correct? So what about the concept of a curriculum do I not understand?
Curriculum has a history of being one of those things that we use to define the human being.
I mean, if your curriculum is in medical school, perhaps, I'll admit, I am not a walking dictionary. I am not Encyclopedia Brown. So let's find out, what is the dictionary definition of curriculum? The subjects comprising a course of study in a school or college. Okay, well, I think I was pretty much on point. It's effectively a glorified term for a lesson plan. But the real definition or purpose of it is what again? Sorry, didn't mean to jump back quite that far.
That we use to define the human being.
Curriculum is what we use to define the human being.
Define different types of human beings.
Define different types of human beings? I thought that was more of a sort of evolutionary taxonomy kind of thing, not a curriculum, but okay.
Decide who and what fits the description of a human being.
You know, I don't think any of this actually pertains to the word curriculum.
And interestingly enough, the knowledge that we need to internalize and to perform for others to accept us and to recognize us as fellow human beings.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
I am legitimately lost now. But by the end of this, I'm going to be convinced that this is important.
As opposed to something lesser, for example, a means to someone else's ends.
Right. Okay, I look forward to some more clarity on this.
It is a racialized history.
It is a racialized history. What is it?
Knowledges get erased.
Oh, like the Library at Alexandria?
Histories become labeling practices.
What? Okay. There had better be some clear, active examples coming in the following 16 minutes.
And, people get maimed, hurt, and killed just for trying to preserve their ways of knowing or the image of themselves that's different from what the Europeans, quote unquote, discovered in the 17th century.
Oh, this is going to be a lot of really bad things happened in the past, and so I'm a victim today. Yeah, I guess that is CRT.
Now I know you're probably wondering, what does curriculum, what do ways of knowing, what do these have to do with being recognized as human?
You're correct, especially that curriculum part.
Well, it's a great question. I am glad you asked.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself.
It really depends on who is writing the curriculum, who the curriculum is for, and who is doing the recognizing.
What? I'm sorry. A, I have to keep pausing for YouTube's sake, and B, I'm trying to wrap my head around where we're going or even where we are.
See, my classmate Leslie didn't learn about the West Indies. I didn't learn about the West Indies.
Why do you need to learn about the West Indies? You're from the West Indies, right?
And the thing is that the impact of that was that my identity.
The identity, which identity?
Was not just an impossibility for Leslie.
No. Your identity is Sarah Ishmael. Your identity is not West Indies. Unless you want me to simply look at you and assume to know something about your history, your character, your condition, your mindset, etc., without knowing anything about you, the individual, but just assume that you fit into some kind of abstract concept. Do you want to be an abstract concept, or do you want to be an individual?
It was an acceptable invisibility.
Okay.
And what that meant is that I was someone that she couldn't be bothered to learn about, and thus couldn't be bothered to learn to come to respect.
You are not your country of either birth or ethnic origin. I don't know if you know, I don't call myself, I don't identify myself as, how can I put this? I have a name. I have an individuality. I have an individual perspective. If someone says, "What are you?" or "Where are you from?" I would say, well, I'm an American. But that defines me about as much as the nation in which I was born. And the only thing that really would perhaps, if I'm proud to be an American, would otherwise define me is that I respect the culture as defined in our Constitution. Outside of that, you don't know anything about me, and saying I'm an American doesn't say much else, because that's not my identity. That may be part of my origin, in a way. That may inform something about what you could guess about my thoughts on some very broad strokes of things, but you'd just be guessing. And so I don't look at you and see an ethnicity. I don't look at you and see a country of origin. And if I said, "Hello, what's your name?" and you said, "I'm from the West Indies," I would know exactly as much about you as before you said that very statement, because that's not an identity. But you really, really, really want it to be, which is just bizarre to me. Thank you, Frosted Glass. So social studies has to teach every culture ever. I guess. I guess that, every culture that's ever existed needs to have a semester-long class. Mead Raid? What? There is sweet alcohol all through my chat now. Oh my gosh, Midnight's Edge. Penny's here. Mars Monkey Max. Oh my gosh, look at all these familiar faces and names and things. Rabnad Skubla. Rabnad Skubla. Gesundheit. Well, good evening, everyone. Oh my God, Yeko. Let me get this. Yeknomeno. Yeknomeno? I get that right? I always like trying to pronounce new names. I try my best. Let me know if I got that right. Well, welcome, everyone. Mead Raid. Oh my gosh. Sweet wine for all. Well, Mead Raid, welcome to the show. Nice to see you. By the way, guys, those of you in the chat who are not part of the Mead Raid, if you don't know about Midnight's Edge After Dark, i.e. Mead, well, I'm on there usually Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern to talk about movies and stuff and pop culture. And if timing works out, I'm going to be on the morning show tomorrow at, make sure I get this right, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. I hope I got that right. So I'll be on there tomorrow to talk about, I think we're going to talk about, am I a racist? Oh boy. But in that same wise, let's get back to our speaker telling us about how I'm to identify her by her country of origin somehow.
I want to talk a little bit about my research.
Okay.
In a documentary that I analyze, a teacher is introducing the autobiography of Frederick Douglass to a mainly white class.
Because that's important.
And I can't help but listen to how he's framing the content, how he's framing the autobiography, and how he's setting it up for his students.
Okay, so you audited the teacher for his presentation of the material. Okay. And this is you looking at a documentary. What? I'm just curious what documentary.
And also what the students are saying underneath the voiceover in the background.
Okay.
This particular teacher at this moment, when he was describing the autobiography and Frederick Douglass and the context,
yes.
He said that he avoided discussing the physical harms, the physical toll and nature of slavery.
Okay. What was the, I don't think she mentioned, what was the age group or grade of the class that was being informed of this? Maybe there was a sort of age appropriate consideration, or did she mention what grade level we were talking about?
And instead focused on, what was it? Frederick Douglass's intellectual epiphany that helped him break the mental chains of slavery.
Okay, so focusing on his, academic and, as you say, intellectual gifts and advances rather than physical torture and pain. Okay, and you disagreed with this strategy, I assume?
I heard a student in the background say, it seemed like, yeah, he had it bad, but it didn't seem like he had it as bad as others. It didn't seem like he had it that bad.
Again, I really question that. What was the grade age range of this? Okay, and so this was a student. So someone who did not know much or anything about Frederick Douglass, given a cursory description of his life with the information they had, made that statement. Okay.
Then the scene cuts to a one-on-one interview with a student of color who tells us that she does not feel comfortable participating in class.
Well, heck, I never really felt comfortable participating in class. I'd rather be playing video games, but okay.
She says, I don't feel comfortable talking in class.
I didn't feel comfortable talking in class. My public speaking sensibilities really didn't come about until maybe college, but okay.
It seems that white people feel more comfortable taking up more space than everybody else.
Oh, okay. So what would this student like to see as a resolution to her problem with people of a particular skin color?
I have this terrible fear of being wrong in front of people that I do not trust.
Because they're white? Huh. Okay. I had a fear of being wrong amongst my peers because I'd get teased or something, but that was just kind of a general kid thing. But all right, so you had the white student who had a limited or cursory knowledge of a historical figure, and then you had the, I think you described, student of color who has a problem with white people and is paranoid thereof. Okay, and?
Now, we can interpret this situation in any number of ways, right?
Oh, yeah, in any number of ways, right? Yeah, right. Hold on.
Right?
Yeah, okay. Just I gotta make sure I have Chink on the ready here, because if we're gonna have, the speaker requesting affirmation from the audience, I have to have that ready. Okay, yes. What situation is this again?
Right. She didn't want to participate because she didn't feel confident. She didn't want to participate because she didn't know the answer. She didn't want to participate because, she wasn't pushing herself to be able to be in this conversation.
No, she didn't want to participate because she was uncomfortable around people with the wrong skin color. You forgot to leave. You left out that part. That was kind of the important crux of the entire thing. All of these things had to do with the people around her were of a skin color that made her nervous.
She.
Hers?
When students don't participate in class,
yeah,
or when they refuse to participate,
right?
What do we think?
Well, either they're nervous, or they're shy, which is a kind of a nervousness, obviously. Or maybe they didn't do the homework and don't know the answer. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. But what do we think? I think that the teacher should, maybe approach that student at some time during study time and ask them if they needed some help with the material, or if there's something wrong, or is there anything she can help with, to try to further that student's education. That's what I think. But what do you think?
Well, in my experience as a teacher, one of the common assumptions is that the student actually is the problem.
Well, I don't see that as I don't see that as a problem. I mean, I see that as a common thing. I mean, I can empathize with someone who might be nervous in speaking up or raising their hand or taking a risk of possibly saying something that could be incorrect. I can empathize with that because, well, as you so focused on at the beginning of this, I am a human being. I am the product of a curriculum in this setting. So I would not see the student as a problem. I would see their reluctance to participate as something to counsel them on or find out what the issue is. But again, that's me, human being. Oh, well, I mean, I am white, so I don't know.
But, I would like to think of it a different way.
Okay, again, she's brought up a card, and as past as prologue, I'm assuming she's not going to read it out loud, but there's a slide up, and it reads, quote, "Between me and the other world, there is ever an unasked question, unasked by some through feelings of delicacy, by others through the difficulty of rightly framing it. All, nevertheless, flutter around it. How does it feel to be a problem?" Unquote. And this is from W.E.B. Du Bois. And I'm saying it correctly because in the past I did embarrass myself by saying Dubois, but it's W.E.B. Du Bois, who is a very famous writer, philosopher, and proto-woke person that a lot of people like to quote in this day and age. But yeah, anyway, our speaker framing a reluctant student as a problem, or assuming that others see a reluctant student as a problem themselves, rather than just having some very common and natural hesitancy to participate, is an interesting element, but okay.
I'd like to ask a different set of questions.
Okay.
What if we got curious? What does this lack of participation or refusal to participate tell us about what's happening in the situation here?
It doesn't tell us anything. It literally tells us nothing. For reasons unknown until you ask the individual, you can't know why they're not participating. It could be any number of things. You have to actually go and talk to the student. But what is your analysis of it?
What does a student of color or student of a marginalized gender's lack of participation tell us, not only about the situation, but in fact, here's a more important question. What does it project about them?
Sorry, who's doing the projecting here? Okay, so now you've gone from a student who is reluctant or unwilling, we don't know which because we're not mind readers, to participate in class. Now you've added an element of race to it for reasons that I don't know, but now I have to make a different consideration of the student based on their color. Okay, let's go to the board real quick because she did say marginalized, circling marginalized on the board. Remember, this is bingo card A. Links to the bingo cards are in the description. For any of you from the Mead raid who are still here, and I appreciate you guys being here and hanging out. Yeah, get your bingo cards ready. Let me review real quick for those of you joining late what we have circled on the bingo card. We have circled so far on the top row, childhood or family anecdote. Second row down, plays victim. Third row down, free space and marginalized or marginalization. Fourth row, word salad. And final row, we have mind reading or assumes motives and anecdote that probably never happened. So you've now changed the equation from a reluctant or unwilling to participate student, you don't know which, now added in race as something that I'm supposed to consider into quote unquote this situation, i.e. a student that is not participating in the classroom discussion. And then?
To us.
Sorry, let me back up a little bit because I did cut her off a little bit here. Let me get back.
About what's happening in the situation here. Mm-hmm. What does a student of color or student of a marginalized gender's lack of participation?
Marginalized gender? What is a marginalized gender?
Tell us not only about the situation, but in fact, here's a more important question. What does it project about them to us?
What does it project about them to us? So what do I assume to know about the situation purely based on a lack of participation and the race and or gender of the student? I don't know. How mentally discriminatory am I supposed to be?
That actually isn't who they are at all.
You're not talking about the who, Robert Plant aside. You haven't talked about anyone's identity in any of this. You're talking about adjectives and superficial, non-determinative factors. So to find out the who about someone, you would have to, talk to the individual, regardless of all this extraneous stuff you keep bringing up.
See, something is happening inside of the student that tells them that they need to protect themselves.
No, okay, hold on. Either you are assuming to know the motives and thoughts of the student or you're not. Either you're going to go and ask them, the individual, what's going on, or you're going to stand there going through every possible contingency but doing nothing. Okay, go talk to the kid. It's very simple. You're taking something that's very simple and turning into something that's like the pinnacle of German engineering or something, right? It's too many moving parts. Just talk to the kid. It's like, hey, Sam, I see you're being awfully quiet. Do you need some help with the material? Is there something? It's kind of a simple. I had it happen to me when I was a student. I wasn't big on math. And so when it came time for math, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get the answer right and everything else. And so eventually the teacher would say, hey, I noticed you've been kind of quiet. Are you having some trouble with the math? And I'd be like, well, this, that, and the other. And they'd either help me out or they'd find a fellow student of mine who was better at math and they'd pair us up in order to have one help the other. But okay, what's next in this long journey?
Now, they're not going to say this out loud. They're not going to tell you all of that. What they're going to tell you is,
how do you know unless you ask? Good gravy.
Is that it does not feel safe for them to participate if they say anything at all.
Okay, so you already know, based on the presumed color of the student that they don't feel safe. What about the situation is unsafe? Since you already know what everybody thinks and everything, I'd love to know, what exactly do they feel is unsafe about the situation? How does being in this classroom, being asked a question, or simply not participating tell you that they feel unsafe? Unsafe about what? Roan Harushan, thank you so much for the dancy, lovely Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, there's a Sinatra Says Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Roan. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. And by the way, everybody, in recognition of Roan's generosity, also be sure to take a look at the fundraisers and GoFundMe's at the top of the chat box there, specifically for Roan Harushans. And if you'd like to donate and help out his family, or just share that link around, that would be appreciated. So thank you, Roan, very much, and hope you're enjoying the show. Okay, anyway, so what were you saying again?
Now, what's happening in this documentary that is going unseen, that's going really unremarked on, that the students aren't really seeing, the teachers aren't really seeing, is that.
But you have clearly seen through the lines of the cookbook.
The history that is being constructed here is being constructed and framed in a way that makes people who conceptualize slavery in a particular way feel comfortable to discuss it, which is absolutely fine.
But
at the same time...
at the same time. Okay, well, I mean, it's a bit fancier than a but it's the same difference.
In that very same moment...
In an edited documentary you watched but didn't actually see the entirety of the lesson plan, etc.
What we need to realize that's happening is that history is also being terribly minimized.
How do you know? What are you talking? What do you mean?
For that student of color.
For that student of color, not for any of the other students. It's not being minimized for any other student based on their skin color. It is being minimized for students based on their skin. Okay, all right.
Who has a particular relationship with that history.
Okay, so in this documentary, the student of color has a particular relationship with slavery. How? Were they previously living in Qatar? What are you talking about?
Again, they're not going to say all of this and say what's happening. They're going to...
No, because you're assuming that they're having these thoughts in the first place and projecting onto them your pearl-clutching, race-centric worries and such. But yeah, okay.
To do what they need to do to protect themselves. And
what does that mean? Do what they need to do by not participating in class?
Do what they need to do to protect themselves. And often that is staying quiet.
Okay, you spent like 5 minutes going round and abouts to say the same thing about 3 or 4 times now.
Is staying quiet. Often that's staying silent.
Okay. And how would you address this? How would you solve for this problem?
Often when we look at students that don't participate.
No, you're not talking about students that don't participate. You're talking about specific colored students that don't participate. You don't care about students writ large, do you?
And we see their lack of their refusal to participate. We automatically assume that there's something wrong with them.
No, okay, don't tell you what. Speak for yourself. I don't know what this "we" is. Okay, what if a white student is not participating in class? Is it because they don't feel safe? They don't feel safe for the same reasons as the student of color you quoted earlier. What would you call a white student who told someone, "I don't feel safe in that classroom around all of those black kids"? What kind of words would you use to describe such a student or their thinking on such a subject? Now, imagine for a moment that you just flipped the script and you had a student of color say they weren't comfortable around white people. Would you use the same words? Would you think that maybe there's something going on at home, maybe, that might be contributing to this kind of feeling? Maybe they're getting some signals or education from some sketchy places on how to look at other people around them. Okay. Everything else aside, what is your point?
That they are, in fact, the problem. But could it be Could it be that there's something else that's happening here?
Yeah, a very strange rearing by their parents.
Could that bit of information tell us that anything else could be happening?
What bit of information? You're making assumptions simply on the basis of someone saying nothing. A student is silent and you're making guesses, or I should say reaching conclusions without any other information. Okay?
See, when I was actually asked to comment on the N-word in my classroom,
you immediately went to dithering around telling the entire class about the history of British colonial Caribbean, which makes absolutely no sense.
in my AP lit classroom,
Uh-huh.
my colleagues,
Your colleagues? You were 15 years old, you said.
and my peers,
You were 15 in an AP lit class. Your colleagues and okay.
I mean, they could see that I was visibly uncomfortable.
You know what? If your story is even half true, that you were singled out by your teacher to comment on a student's question or kind of musing about experiencing being called the N-word, I could see how you'd be uncomfortable. That would be a little weird to be singled out like that. You know, I'll extend it the benefit of the doubt as much as that goes, because I can empathize with someone on a human level, regardless of what their makeup might be. Uh-huh.
They absolutely could.
Yeah.
My teachers, what they saw was me not participating.
I suppose they did see that if you just sat there silently. Uh-huh. And that isn't, for the sake of the story, that is an absolute truth. Now, why do I think you're about to tell us what they were thinking?
But what they didn't see was the immense burden of having to explain to my peers the socio-historical conditions of my own existence.
The subject at hand was being racially insulted. You were reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. A student mused aloud what it must be like to be called a racial slur. Your teacher singled you out. Okay, well, again, this long litany of complaints, we're now halfway through this talk. What remedy to this problem do you suggest be employed?
See, teaching and learning, they aren't just processes of cultural reproduction.
Not just.
They are also processes that dictate who and what is shown or allowed to be known as a typical normal human being in a cultural space.
No, usually it's teaching about a subject, whether it's, literature or history or biology. I mean, if you want to know about how people work, you're probably going to go for the biology territory. Okay, I need some active examples. Oh, we have another slide. Okay, what's this one say? Quote, the pedagogical transitions of disciplinary knowledge that become the curriculum are never merely a replica of the academic disciplines. They embody principles about who the child is, should be, and who does not fit into the normalized cultural space, unquote. From T. Popowitz, Social Epistemology, The Reason of Reason and the Curriculum Studies, Education Policy Analysis Archives, 2014.
The pedagogical translations of disciplinary knowledge that become the curriculum are never merely a replica of academic disciplines. They embody principles about who the child is, should be, and who does not fit into that normalized cultural space.
Give me an active example of what you're talking about.
That is the work of curriculum.
No. Curriculum is a course of study taught in a school or a college. Okay, you know what? I am going to circle attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, because this redefinition of curriculum is a running through line in this deal. So circling that one. And I'm getting ready. She's only about halfway through this thing. I haven't circled leaves out vital context yet, because I'm hoping beyond hope, and I know it might be a futile one, that we'll get some active examples or something specific here. Collectivize his own demographic, yes, either by saying I am the West Indies effectively or elsewise. Systemic or institutional, yes, because she's talking about schools and systems of education, curriculum, etc. Let's see. I'm going to circle microaggressions or unconscious bias, because either through the teacher's actions or her constant what to assume to know about someone on the basis of what they look like, that fits as well. So far, again on the board, collectivize his own demographic, systemic or institutional, childhood or family anecdote, plays victim, microaggressions or unconscious bias, free space, marginalized or marginalization, word salad, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, mind reading or assumes motives, and anecdote that probably never happened. We'll probably get to benevolent condescension here pretty quick, but anyway, moving on.
In my research, I use Afro-Caribbean philosophical frameworks.
You said that before.
To look at curriculum differently.
Obviously so, since you've redefined the term.
Now, Afro-Caribbean philosophy challenges us to ask questions about who and what the human is, who.
Why? I'll be admittedly, I don't know anything about Afro-Caribbean philosophy, so I need a quick education. What does Afro-Caribbean philosophy say about the individual or who we are?
To ask questions about who and what the human is, who gets to define the human, whose knowledge gets to define that, who is represented as a human being within the answer.
Again, I hate to be a broken record. I need something specific. I need an active example. I need something to ground this and not just be a litany of words.
To those questions. And I think most importantly, on whose experience of being human is the literature that we read, the curriculum that we teach, the history that we learn.
On whose experience of being human? What? I don't know. I mean, if I'm teaching Huckleberry Finn, I suppose it would be, by extension, the experience of Mark Twain. If I'm teaching about, I don't know, Shakespeare or Langston Hughes, or I don't know. The author of the book, the life and times of someone. What are you talking about?
Based.
Economy.
Afro-Caribbean philosophy represents an interdisciplinary space where a variety of approaches to thinking are practiced.
No, it doesn't. It's not a variety of approaches to thinking. It's Afro-Caribbean philosophy. That's a approach to thinking. So is this a one-size-fits-all pitch for Afro-Caribbean philosophy? I guess if you're having to justify all of your academic work and your doctoral candidacy and convince me by the end of this that what you're doing is important, I suppose Afro-Caribbean philosophy needs to be a solution to everything.
But I want to highlight a little bit of that quote. It says, the result is a fresh ground for the exchange of ideas that welcome innovation and discards Western disciplinary philosophical thought as a fundamental requirement.
Okay, she didn't read the fullness of that slide, so I'm going to back up just a bit. Hold on, pardon me. Okay, this is the full quote. Quote, Afro-Caribbean philosophy represents an interdisciplinary space where a variety of approaches to thinking are practiced, examined, and critiqued. This philosophy challenges Western European epistemology and ontology. The result is a fresh ground for exchange of ideas that welcomes innovation and discards Western disciplinary philosophical thought as a fundamental requirement to pursuing questions and theoretical ideas about African descendants in the Americas, unquote. Okay, so again, Afro-Caribbean philosophy is here to overwrite, challenge, destroy Western European philosophy because it's superior, I guess. But it's also interdisciplinary that allows a variety of approaches to things. Except, I guess, if you had a Western European approach to thinking, this would not be welcome in an Afro-Caribbean philosophical space, I guess. I don't know. I would love for her to give us an example of an Afro-Caribbean philosophy-informed discipline, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic through an Afro-Caribbean philosophy. What would that look like? How does that challenge Western European epistemology and ontology?
Quote.
All right, let me jump ahead a little bit because...
Welcome innovation and discards Western disciplinary philosophical thought as a fundamental requirement. Doesn't discard it in general, just as the requirement to pursuing questions and theoretical ideas about African descendants in the Americas, and I would argue humans in general.
None of that makes any... Okay. I'm done. Okay, I'm just an English major. I'm not a philosopher or anything else. I'm just stupid. Okay, I need you to simplify that. I need to frame that in a way that that I can understand. What does this actually look like in practice? How about that?
Now, I use Afro-Caribbean philosophy to help me understand and think about curriculum differently.
Obviously so. You've redefined the word. You said this before. Uh-huh.
It helps me understand that curriculum is actually a site of struggle.
Of course curriculum is a site of struggle. I'm the idiot student, and they're the teacher putting me through the curriculum to inform and eventually test my, attention, my retention, and so on. Of course it's a struggle. It's the dynamic between teacher and student. Uh-huh.
A side of struggle over the definition of who the human is, who is represented as the human, and who is normalized.
You're repeating. We have heard all of this earlier in your presentation. Everything so far has just been a repetition. What are you talking about? What does this look like on the ground, in the classroom? You talked about being a teacher. You even did a little Freudian slip earlier and talked about your students or something instead of your classmates. How does this inform your teaching practices? Give us an example and compare and contrast an Afro-Caribbean philosophy in the classroom versus a Western European philosophy in the classroom. There is understanding through difference. Show me the difference.
Within those discussions.
Yeah, whatever.
I was lucky.
Were you? Because so far I've heard nothing but tales of woe.
When I refused to participate in that discussion in my junior year.
I'm not even sure you know what discussion you were having at that time, because the question that was asked was not the burden that you were putting yourself through. But anyway, yes.
I was lucky enough to have teachers and to live in a place where my refusal to participate, my silence, was not interpreted as defiance.
Okay. How was this? Did the teacher ask you later, or are you once again just assuming to know the minds of someone else?
Well, what I didn't know was that there are assumptions laying there. There were assumptions laying there in wait, ready for my teachers to pick up, use, and to interpret my actions.
Wait. Sorry. I cut her off, but I'm going to let her finish here, but wait a second.
To interpret my actions through.
Okay. So far in this presentation, you have instructed the audience to make assumptions about the mindset of silent students based on their skin color. You have instructed the audience to do this. This is the correct way of operating. And now you're complaining about assumptions made by others that you assume they're assuming. I have to assume, unless you're going to provide me evidence or, some kind of example. So, okay. Contradicts own pointer argument, circling that one. And after this much time, I'm circling leaves out vital context because I don't know how long I've been begging for some kind of active example. If she finally gives us her philosophy in action, I'll take it back. But for now, I'm circling it. Okay.
And as I continue to do my research using West Indian philosophy.
West Indian philosophy? I thought it was Afro-Caribbean philosophy. Are these synonymous? I mean, I'm trying to make sure I get all my terminology correct here. So are they the same thing?
To investigate curriculum theory, I learned that there's a lot, y'all.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot, y'all. For a doctoral candidate, I would hope you'd get a bit more specific than that.
There's a lot of history. There are a lot of discourses.
There's a lot of history and discourses,
that are sitting there waiting for us as educators to pick up and look through to interpret not only our students' actions, their interactions with curriculum content, but their very being, who they actually are.
You're less concerned with who a student is than what they look like at this point.
As well.
Okay.
When I started to learn more about Afro-Caribbean philosophy.
Do you mean West Indian philosophy?
And curriculum theory, I also learned importance, the almost dire need to be able to unsee.
Unsee. So re-educate?
To put those frameworks down.
What? The frameworks of Afro-Caribbean philosophy? Or?
If I had
$1 million?
Develop the self.
Sorry, I cut her off. I was trying to make a bad joke and I cut her off. Let's try that again.
If I had developed the self. That was written for me.
If I had developed the self that was written for you. Okay, the last time you brought up written for you about your whatever, it's because there was a blurb in a textbook about the slavery Barbados code or something, or some entry that your fellow student, was it Leslie, I think it was, or Rachel or something? She would only know that little blurb represented you. Okay.
In 1555.
Jesus. Let's try that one again.
I also learned the importance, the almost dire need to be able to unsee. To put those frameworks down.
All right. Let's get back to this 1555 thing again. I was hoping for 1619, but we went way further back.
If I had developed the self. That was written for me in 1555.
It wasn't written for you in 1555. And I don't know if you know, some 400 some odd years have passed since then, but whatever.
If I had developed the self the only self that Leslie would recognize me to be, I wouldn't have found Afro-Caribbean philosophy. Would have no idea that there was something in my own history that would allow me to see my students, to see myself, to see issues of education and justice.
What are you You know, for someone who is positioning herself to be an educator or already is an educator, I feel particularly let down in my curriculum. What are you talking about? I would love to hear how she moves through her day as a teacher, and specifically how Afro-Caribbean philosophy informs her actions and the way that she doles out information to her students. I really would.
Caribbean philosophy. Would have no idea that there was something in my own history that would allow me to see my students, to see myself, to see issues of education and justice differently.
Different from what? I need you to compare and contrast. I cannot evaluate the importance, the veracity, or the value of what you have to say and how you go about doing your work unless you show us a difference. You have to compare. Western philosophy would have me do this. Instead, I follow Afro-Caribbean philosophy, which has me do this. And this is better than the other option because I am dying for some contrast here. I really am. I'm trying to understand, but she's making it very difficult.
I had no idea that you could be a West Indian, a woman, and a scholar.
You had no idea. Okay, well, your lack of imagination, I guess, is your problem.
Absolutely none.
Okay then.
You know, the question, though, is how do we view students? How do we treat students who decide to develop a self that isn't what the curriculum wants to shape them to be?
I'm honestly not trying to be a broken record here. I'm just consistently bewildered. I don't know. You tell me. You are the expert here. You have a perspective on all of this, on education and interacting with students that I obviously do not possess. So you must have some suggestion. You must have some insight into how to solve the problem you've been describing for the last 16 minutes. Please, how would you go about resolving this with your special brand of education?
What if they develop a self that is in opposition to the person that they would have to become in order to feel safe participating in discussions like those?
What if Dr. Doom was the Sorcerer Supreme? Don't give me a hypothetical. Tell me what you've done in your role as a teacher with students who don't participate. What is your strategy?
See, that's incredibly important because...
Is it?
Including somebody's culture, including somebody's some history in your curriculum, in a textbook, isn't just a nice thing to do.
Okay, would you do this for a white student? Would you take the time to find out the history or culture of a white student and go to this effort for them? Or is that something that just isn't worth your time? I don't know how else to interpret what you're saying other than we have to give particular students special attention because obviously they are fragile or need it or something. I think, again, Frosted Glass, it's like listening to Kamala answer a question. It's something else. I don't know. I don't know what other conclusions to come to here other than she's really reaching to try to convince me that what she's doing is important. But so far, and we've only got 4 minutes left of this 20-minute talk, she hasn't even reached the point where I can assess whether or not what she's doing is important. I need a success story. I mean, how many times have I asked this about other presentations? If you're going to propose to me that what you have to say is either important or effective or a solution to a problem, you need to relay to me a success story. You encountered a problem that if you had gone about it this way would have turned out badly. But because you went about it the way that you believe things should go about, it came out well. Okay? At this point, I'll take anything. Like, I had a student whose name was AJ, and I went and talked to AJ because AJ wasn't participating in class. Now, a Western philosophy would tell you to interact with AJ in this wise, but instead, I used an Afro-Caribbean philosophy to assess him through the curriculum as a person and what kind of human being he was. And it turned out this way. Something for me to dig my mental teeth into. I need something. I am starving for it. I am begging for it. So far it's been abstractions and high-minded, whatever. Give me an example, please.
Isn't just like, oh, that's really sweet. It actually fundamentally shapes the perception of reality. It fundamentally shapes ideas about what knowledge and whose knowledge and people's who are important to learn about when you're navigating the world.
How? Just come on.
And when you leave out
You mean white students?
a culture or people, or you limit the amount of information about any background, genders,
Of the two?
what you're doing is you're actually shaping that student's perception of reality to say that those experiences, those people, those way of living, not just doesn't matter, but doesn't exist.
Again, give me an example of what you're talking about.
So
A needle pulling thread.
I return to that question.
What question? What does it feel like to be a problem?
What do we do with students? How do we see students that develop a self that is in opposition to the curriculum that does not recognize them, does not recognize their people, their history?
Okay, again, just is really frustrating. Talk to the kid. You do not know what is going on with the student. If they are quiet in class, there are a vast number of reasons for that. It could be that they're nervous. It could be they don't know the answer. They're not familiar. They're not very good at math, or they're not very good at spelling something. Maybe they're having problems at home. Maybe they're distracted by something else. You don't know. Ask the kid what's going on. You've constructed this gigantic, complex mainframe of stuff, all teetering on the tiny, easy question of, hey, kid, what's going on? Is there something I can help you with in the class or with the material? Good gravy. What happens when you're in a classroom with a bunch of students and some are doing things that you don't find productive to the curriculum? I with all of this stuff in my mind's eye, I just imagine she's teaching a class, she looks across the room, and there's one kid who's kind of like looking down at their desk and not really participating. And all of a sudden, she goes into this like total freeze mode where her brain is having a syntax error going through all of this stuff, trying to determine and trying to feel out what's going on with this kid and what could it be and all the things, and should I evaluate their culture, this, or what's the human and everything else. And from the outside, you just see someone staring off into space, and every kid in the class is going like, Mrs. Ishmael, are you okay? And you're just like, and then the kid's sitting there going like, I wish I was at home playing Xbox. And it's just like, what are we doing here?
How many students do we kick out of class for being unmotivated or uninterested or not showing initiative that are truly, truly just unseen?
Kick out of... What? Okay. Talk to the child. What? Kick out of... Okay, if being quiet in class, even to the point of non-participation, is a kickable offense, holy cats, you must have it easy in class. The kids that got kicked out of my class were causing actual trouble.
And who understand that participating in a classroom, participating in class, is also participating in a contestation of knowledge.
Okay, Dina B said it perfectly. They're just bored with you and you're not. Could it be that this entire talk is taking place inside the mind of our speaker, who is trying to rationalize away a disinterested classroom as something other than my fault in not making the material engaging? Is this all trying to save her ego around her teaching skills? Dina B has introduced the possibility, and I appreciate that. I like that. I like that thought. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's only 2.5 minutes left. We're almost there, guys.
Who controls it? Who defines it? Who is represented in it?
Oh my God.
Who is represented as what in it?
I don't know. I don't know. Tell me. What you tell me. I hear him, the student. You're the teacher. Tell me.
I need you to do me a favor.
I've been sitting here listening very intently for 18 minutes. I think I've done about 18 different favors, but okay.
I need you to look to your left.
Looking to my left, I see my copy of Pulp Apocalypse, edited by Justin Marriott. It is a collection of information on pulp novels and series dealing with post-apocalyptic fiction. Oh, it is. Sorry, I got distracted. I don't know why.
I need you to look to your right.
Okay. I have my empty cocoa cup because I had a cup of cocoa before the show. It's a blue kind of I don't know what you want to call it, kind of like one of those tapered cups with it's a coffee cup. I don't know. Okay.
You're probably sitting next to a colleague or a friend.
Well, okay. I mean, true enough. I mean, but see, to my left, to my immediate left and right, that's what's there. I mean, Dog Cat Fox is kind of like off to my behind, just off to the side to my left, like behind at my. He's always like sitting here on the floor, looking up at me. So I wasn't like looking to that far left. But I mean, so okay, so Dog Cat Fox, right? Wowie wow wow. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm looking at you now. Are you happy? At least wag your tail. Let me know that you're engaged. If you sit there silently, I have to assume I'm not engaging with your culture or your human, well, your genetic aberration sense. Wowie wow wow. Okay. Okay. Anyway, just give me a second.
A classmate.
A pet / indentured servant. Okay.
I want you to think about this question.
Okay, I'm getting ready to think.
Who is encouraged to pursue higher education?
Everyone. I mean, in America at least, everyone is encouraged to, if you can, mostly afford it. Do I need to send Dog Cat Fox off to college? Is there a Dog Cat Fox college? I guess I have to found like a Dog Cat Fox college now on the moon.
When the curriculum used to get there or to get here is only epistemologically safe for a certain limited amount of backgrounds and genders.
What are you? All right, I need to take a break. And thank you, Derek LaRue, for giving me that break. Thank you, Derek LaRue. Very much appreciated as well, again, for the respectful, thoughtful Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie. Wow. Wow.
Oh, there's a very sultry Your Boy Pat Dogcat Fox. Thank you, Derek LaRue. Appreciate the mental break I needed there. Okay, you know what? Again, English major. Epistemology. Just for everyone's edification, there's another big word. Epistemology. The theory of knowledge, especially with regards to its methods, validity, and scope. Epistemology is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. Okay, with that in mind, oh, sorry, one second. JB, thank you so much. I would call her light-skinned. She'd probably cry. Well, yeah, you're not recognizing, somehow you did not divine both her ethnicity, country of origin, or territory of origin or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's very important to her. All right, let's back up just a bit. I know I'm stretching this out more. We only have a minute left in this thing, but I want to make sure I get this. Okay, who is encouraged to pursue higher education?
Or a friend.
Yes.
A classmate.
Again, pet or indentured servant.
I want you to think about this question.
Okay, one more time. One more time.
Who is encouraged to pursue higher education when the curriculum used to get there or to get here is only epistemologically safe for a certain limited amount of backgrounds and genders?
Okay, what curriculum is unsafe for someone based on their background or gender? What kind of curriculum will inherently disallow someone from pursuing higher education because of their skin color? You say background. You know, when I started my channel, that word was used a lot more often in DEI presentations than race or ethnicity. They usually said background first because that was a safer term to use. They didn't get too specific. At that time, they were still a little nervous about promoting race as an evaluative factor in someone. But okay, backgrounds or gender. You need to tell me or give me an example of a kind of curriculum that in and of itself will disallow someone from pursuing higher education merely on the basis of their race or gender. I would love to know what that is.
Who would be sitting next to you if the system didn't weed out based upon a few set of appropriate identities?
What? Okay, you don't even know what you're talking about. And I keep searching for the words. Who would be sitting next to me? I don't know. What are you trying to solve here?
Who would be sitting next to you right now? What solutions, what lifelong friendships, what perspectives, what ideas, what visions of the...
Okay, you obviously don't even know what you're talking about at this point. In the absence of examples, you are talking nonsense. You have to make sense of what you're saying by pinning it to something concrete. You have not done that at all through this entire thing. This entire talk is utter and absolute nonsense.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
The world do we not have that we could learn about? I am not the only person that's doing this work.
Oh, God. Oh, no, there's more. Oh, no. Actually, I'm quite aware of that. I mean, at least in spirit, if not specificity. Trying to confuse people with some pseudo-academic nonsense, all based around racial supremacy or racial victimhood, is decidedly not rare.
There are so many others that have taught me and continue to teach me how to unsee.
Great.
And a lot of them are in the audience right here.
Yeah. Well, birds of a feather.
Actually.
Mm-hmm.
What I want you to do is I want you
to
do your research.
Oh, do my research. Okay, what constitutes my research? What should I do to educate myself?
I want you to look them up.
Who's them? The giant ants?
Find them. If you need to email me, that's fine. You can email me, find me after. That's cool.
Okay, sales pitch for product or service since we're buying things now. Okay.
But I want you to find them. I want you to listen to them.
The giant ants?
And I want you to learn from them.
How to attack people in a nuclear wasteland?
Because if more and more of us do this work, maybe, just maybe, classrooms in the United States may become spaces that are safe for everyone to be. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, man. And I pick them. Thank you, Keldrig. Not seeing things is generally a bad thing. Yeah. I need to be taught how to unsee. Not unseelie, because that would be sort of a changeling the dreaming kind of thing, but unsee. Okay. Well, with that kind of stumbling, meaningful ending, all right, let's move on to the bingo card. Oh, man. That went on. What else can I say? All right, so here's the bingo card as I currently have it. Holy cats. All right, I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them, and I will get to you momentarily. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, at the very end there, classrooms can be made safe for everyone, and classroom equity, at least implied if not said, was definitely a running theme throughout this. And therefore, with that, if you can...
Bingo!
What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course! Of course!
We have our first bingo going on to privilege. Yes, because who has access or who is encouraged to seek higher education based on blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, which means that there is an inherent privilege going on with curriculums geared towards specific people and not towards others and so on. Okay, patriarchy. She never really brought up an overarching gender disparity in power, at least not as far as I can recall. So I don't think I can circle that one. Deceptive statistics. Again, no statistics were brought up. She didn't say 40% of this or 20% of that. So economic disparity. I don't know that she ever brought up individual economics. She didn't talk about poor people or afford things, I don't think. Feminism, again, I didn't hear anything in there explicitly about feminism or feminist talking points. A list. Yes, she did give us a list of, what am I thinking of here? I know she did. Oh my gosh, my mind's blanking. Okay, I'm taking it back because I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that she did. You guys have to help me out on that one. White supremacy, if not in actual statement, then certainly by implication throughout the deal as to what groups have this advantage and what groups have that advantage, and on and on and on and on, and likewise.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Have our second bingo. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, there was a lot of playing victim, but at no point that I can recall, and again, I'm open to argumentation, at no point that I can recall did she make herself the villain of any particular situation, or somehow that she was contributing to a problem. I don't believe so. Moving on, weightless example, non sequitur. Everything, this entire talk, her hypotheticals, everything, because it didn't contribute to anything. It didn't tell me how important it was. She brought up, okay, so you want specifics? Afro-Caribbean philosophy. Without comparing and contrasting what the results are using that versus Western philosophy, it means nothing. She went on and on and on about it, but never told us how or why or in what way it's employed in her world. Nothing. Nothing. Lastly, benevolent condescension. The entire talk. And especially that by the end of this, you will find it important too. And boy howdy, with that one square.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
Double bingo on that one for one square. All right, so that's me at the end of my assessment of the card. Now it's your guys' turn. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now. If I've missed your comment, just please repost it. I'll scroll up a little bit here. Advocast Diaboli, this entire thing was non sequitur. I agree. From curriculum to creating self, how did we even get from A to B? I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Advocast again, she spoke about slavery. That would be economic disparity. That is correct. That is correct. Good one, Advocatus. I agree.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
So there you go. That's another bingo. Who else? Let's see. Derek Lou, plenty of bingos to go around. Yes, might have more if we have some more arguments. Would slides be considered a list? No, those are just visual aids. Those are just, unless there was a list on one of the slides. A list. Did she give us a list? I know she named off some stuff. I thought she was going to name at the end when she was talking about them, obviously the giant ants. I thought that she would start naming off the authors I was supposed to buy the works of to educate myself, but she didn't do that, so I wasn't sure. Frosty Glass, patriarchy. She said kids of other genders are victims too. I mean, there is something implied there, isn't there? Different genders, she said. Well, okay, I mean, here's the problem, though, is that does that inherently mean male? Right? Or, well, there was, when she was talking about that student, she kept, I don't know why she kept saying her over again. I don't know. I need something a bit more solid. Oh, sorry, I didn't update the card. Pardon me. I didn't refresh. There you go. Sorry. I didn't refresh the page. I did update the card. Yes, economic disparity is now circled. Sorry about that, Kiro Soldier. Let's see. Advocate says, having to also look at people by gender to see oppression, feminism. I mean, it does include, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. No, fair enough. You start talking about, oppressed genders and such. Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to include it, I suppose. All right. Fair enough. Let me update that. All right. Feminism, but the patriarchy one, I need something a bit more solid on patriarchy. I mean, maybe I'm being too nitpicky, but it is a double bingo square. So I gotta at least seem like I'm challenging you guys occasionally. This is how we learn, guys. This is the curriculum of TED Excellence. All right. Frosted Glass, patriarchy. Do you really think for 1 second she was talking about the male gender being disadvantaged? No. No, I guess not. I suppose I can't do that. You got me. You blinded me with logic.
Bingo!
What? Bingo! Yeah! Of course! Of course!
Bingo.
What? Of course!
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. Uh-oh. What's this? What's this? What's this? There's white things in the air. Must be people falling. A list. She listed the purposes of curriculum. Yeah, well, her version of curriculum at least. Okay, I'll give you that. There was a long, tired litany of what she said curriculum actually did or the purpose thereof. So, all right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Anybody else? I think we might be at the... Oh, yeah, we're too short of a blackout. I know. There were no statistics, and I am challenged to think of an instance where she was not playing the victim versus vilifying or making herself out to be part of the problem. But the evil one, come on, we only need 2 for a full card. Yeah, well, we're not going to get there. I can imagine maybe somebody coming up with an argument sidewise for self-vilification, maybe. But there were no statistics. Absolutely none were given, so we're not going to get a blackout. She never said 40% of this or 30% of students do that. It's just not going to happen. And as well, I've gone over time because this sucker was 20 minutes long, which is about 5 minutes more than most TEDx's. And basically, I take whatever the length of the TEDx is and essentially multiply it by 4. Because that's how I figure usually things are going to go. So if it's a 15-minute talk, we're probably looking at about, an hour, maybe hour and 15 minutes or so. In this one, I'm actually kind of surprised I got through it as relatively quickly as we did, but my voice is already starting to wear out. Random American, there's only 10% chance of no statistics. In a TEDx, that's probably right. Toot Sweet. Good evening. Didn't see you there. But anyway, I think I'm going to have to... Statistics. Someone to the left or right of you has some diverse story. No, I'm sorry. And Advocatus tries the Mr. Fantastic stretch of deceptive statistics. She gave us none. The most deceptive kind of statistics. Oh... Yeah, well, I'm sorry. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to call it here. That is a pretty full card, 2 WTFs, a long and arduous journey through the mind of someone trying to rationalize away the possibility that their students might just be bored of her, at least according to Dina B. Speaking of Dina B, did you know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. I put the link to the Discord server in the chat right now. And if you'd like to join the Discord server, all you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to give the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. And if thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. Today's secret word is curriculum or Dina B. Just say hello, Dina B, or hello, curriculum, and I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, I am scheduled to appear tomorrow morning, Friday morning, at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time for the Midnight Edge in the Morning show, where apparently we're going to talk about the documentary, or may talk about the documentary Am I Racist? And or some stuff going on at Disney and or movie stuff, all types of stuff. So looking forward to that tomorrow, and look out for me there. As well, you can find me here Sunday for the Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'll talk about some things that happened over the week, because it's now a news digest show. That's what it's turned into. I seem to like it. People seem to like it. And until I get tired of it, that's what it's going to be. And of course, you can always find me here Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where we can do this all over again with a completely different topic. I can't wait. But elsewise, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very little to do. Thanks very much to the audience from Midnight's Edge After Dark for giving me a raid. I rarely get raids. Raids are rare here. And so I appreciate it when it happens. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let me know how much you did with a like, if you would, or a comment after the fact. I appreciate it either way. And everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMes and fundraisers at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It's very, very much appreciated. Everyone, have a good rest of your Friday evening. Have a good weekend ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.